This girl is simping for this guy at an airport, and he hasn't even said anything. So you often hear from guys that girls never make the first move and the guy has to make the first move. Well, what is this? This guy has this unspoken riz. He hasn't said a word, and this girl is basically planning her future life with him. It's kind of crazy. But what this does show is that how you look is pretty much going to attract women to make the first move and show signs of attraction to you. And believe me, this actually happens. If you have the goods, people are going to come to you regardless. This guy looks good and is just walking around an airport, and girls are simping for him. Looking good as a man really does have that power. Have you ever wondered why average men on dating apps basically gets no matches? What is going on here? Is it simply a difference in the amount of men versus women? Are women's standards really high? What is actually happening here? So last time I checked, the average dating app had about 3:1 men to women in their ratio, so clearly more men are interested in going on dates with women online than women are. So straight away, the scale is kind of tipped to one side, right? That alone makes dating a lot harder for the average guy. Another thing is that men are also way less selective with who they swipe right on compared to women. And to illustrate this, I recently went on a date with this girl, and she's cute. She's a pretty girl, right? We got to the conversation of dating apps, and I'm very curious, and I wanted to know what her experience was like using Tinder. And she told me she was averaging 1,000 likes on Tinder a day. Yeah. So every day she would log in, she would have 1,000 guys swiping right on her that she could choose from. And she told me this, and she got Tinder Gold just to see, you know, who was swiping right and left on her. So 1,000 likes a day, okay? Now, even if you're like the best looking guy in the world, you're not getting 1,000 likes a day on a dating app, right? You know, she's pretty, like she's a pretty girl, and I would say she's, you know, an attractive girl, but like 1,000 likes a day, that's an insane amount of men to choose from, right? Now, I want to ask you this. Why would she choose an average guy? When her choices are so vast, why would she choose a guy that doesn't have anything special going on in terms of his looks? The answer is she wouldn't. If you were in that same situation and you had 1,000 girls liking your dating app profile and swiping right on you, and you could choose from any of them, you aren't going to pick the dime a dozen humdrum girl. You are going to go for a girl that stands out to you in some way. And first of all, like if you're just scrolling through like who actually liked your profile as she was doing, an average looking face and body isn't going to stand out at all. Like it will just be blur. It will just be like part of the background while she's looking for guys that she likes in some way. And if getting 1,000 likes from women on a dating app a day is too far-fetched for you to imagine, imagine if you're hiring someone for a job and you get 1,000 job applications a day. Okay, why on God's green earth would you choose just a dime a dozen average job applicant? There's no point. It would be totally illogical for you to do so. You're either going to wait and get the best possible offer, like the best possible job applicant, the guy that is like the most qualified and has the best experience and so on, or you are going to pick one job applicant that has some kind of specialty niche ability that is very hard to find. He'll have some X factor that is valuable to your company. You're going to hire that guy. You're not going to hire any of the humdrum job applicants, are you? This is the position that pretty women are in when they're using a dating app. They are getting so many of these guys liking her and wanting to date her. If you are an average guy and you're not in some kind of niche, or you're not like a Chad, you're not a very good looking guy, you are functionally invisible, and that's why average men basically gets no matches on dating apps. Like when I'm traveling abroad and, you know, I'm in a country where my looks are pretty unique, you know, I do pretty damn well because I stand out from the crowd, right? I have blue eyes, I have blonde hair, I'm quite tall, my shoulders are quite wide. I wouldn't say I'm a Chad, definitely can't be replaced that easy in countries that I'm visiting. So when I'm using a dating app, I usually average like 50 to 100 likes a day when I'm traveling around. Unless you're like a really good looking guy, or you're unique looking in some kind of way, like you have some kind of niche appeal, like you're the hyper masculine bodybuilder guy, you're a skater guy, you're an emo guy, you're a thug maxed guy, maybe you've got like long blonde hair like I do. There's some sort of niche to you where you kind of stand out from the crowd. I think that's the only way an average guy can basically be not invisible on a dating app, is if you stand out in some kind of way. And again, being a Chad is like genetically beyond the scope of most men, right? So if they aren't some sort of niche, they're just, you know, dime a dozen. They're functionally invisible on a dating app. You're one of the 1,000 guys that are swiping right on that girl's profile, right? And another thing with looks is that the return on investment for looking better is asymptotic. And an asymptote is basically when something approaches a point on a graph, it takes like an upturn to infinity, kind of like an exponential increase. This is something that a lot of people really struggle to wrap their head around. If you like go from like a 5 to a 7 in looks, people assume, okay, well, you're going to get a bit more matches. Going from a 5 to a 7 will give you an exponential increase in the amount of matches you get, because now you're out of the dime a dozen humdrum group of guys, and now you look quite handsome. You're like a 7. You're a 7 out of 10. And most people don't really have the ability to comprehend things in an exponential way. Like, we like to think in like a linear graph. We don't tend to get instinctually exponentiality as well as we do something that's linear. The return on investment for looks is not linear. I want to give an example. This guy on his forum created 2 separate dating app profiles on Tinder, and he used his like regular picture, and he used a picture that was like heavily filtered and photoshopped to make himself more attractive. He gave himself a jawline, more forward projection, just a bunch of features that would make him objectively better looking as a guy. And he noticed he was getting like 4 matches a week on his like regular pictures. On his photoshopped pictures, he was getting like, on his first day, he said he got like 50 likes on Tinder in a day. That is an order of magnitude better results. That is an exponential increase in the amount of dating success that guy is having if he was actually looking like his photoshopped and filtered picture, right? And again, this is hard for people to imagine. A guy that is a 7 out of 10 is a whole different, it's like not even comparable, the amount of attraction that he'll create with women compared to a 5 out of 10 guy. Kind of like the default assumption in society is that a handsome looking guy is going to have a bit better results in dating. Most people don't quite understand that it's not a bit better. It's like leagues and bounds better results in online dating. But in 2024, in the online dating meta, a normie looking guy, you're getting functionally 0 matches. And I know technically, you know, you could say, well, you'll get a few matches here and there, like maybe like, you know, 2 or 4 a week, but that's functionally 0, because like you got to factor in girls that accidentally swipe right, girls that are bots, catfishers, girls just trying to get followers on Instagram, girls that are gonna flake. So when you add up all these variables, it is functionally 0 matches, right? And that's for the average guy, and that sucks. And the annoying thing is you kind of get like these like Reddit soyjack type of guys that gaslight average looking dudes as to why they're not getting matches on Tinder. They'll say stuff like, oh, you need to change your bio, you need to smile more, oh, the position's not quite right, you need to... They'll like hyper analyze every single aspect and make the guy second guess every single thing that he's saying or doing, or like, it's just like, no. Again, this pretty girl that I dated said she was getting 1,000 likes a day. If you're an average looking guy, you're functionally invisible to her. And this is like the curse of the average guy. Like, you don't want to be interchangeable with one of the many 1,000 guys that were liking this girl's profile in a day. You don't want to be in that position. You want to stand out in some kind of way. You know, the Reddit's soyjack guy is going to be like, oh no, you need to smile more. It's just like, shut up. Average looking girls on dating apps, they get a huge amount of, like an order of magnitude more likes on their dating app profiles than men do. So to even like have a chance at like average looking girls, you know, you need to stand out in some kind of way. You need to be a niche or be just straight up good looking as a man. I've seen this myself, like when I was like below, like very much below average, right? Like I was a neck beard and like, yeah, you can see me on screen here. I was getting basically no matches. And yeah, I improved myself and improved my looks, and yeah, it's just a different ball game now. Like, I can actually, in fact, I'm going on a date in, oh shit, I have to get ready for a date in like 50 minutes. Just like in a different point in my life right now. And this is where you want to be as a guy. Like, you want to, you know, be able to stand out from the crowd and not look like just another normie, right? Don't play it safe. Don't try and look like a normie. Stand out in some kind of way. You have to either just straight up look better, or you have to not look like a normie. Be a skater guy, emo guy, some criminal looking guy, if that's the route you want to go down. If you guys want to do something about your looks and improve your looks, you can go to my Patreon, where I've made a bunch of videos specifically about how to look better as a guy. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Have you noticed that bodybuilders don't tend to have lean looking faces? Now, I've noticed this quite often, where I see a guy that has like literal veins on his abs, that is very muscular and using PEDs, that will have a very lean looking body, yet the face will be kind of bloated and almost chubby looking. So what exactly is going on here? Why do so many bodybuilders have this dichotomy between their head and their body? Now, I'm sure the first thing people think of are the pharmaceuticals many people into bodybuilding use, and yeah, I think that might have part of a reason to play. There is definite evidence that using roids can actually increase your body's water retention, but I don't think that would make enough of a difference to where it will blur your jawline and take away your hollow cheeks. Put it this way, if Jordan Barrett ate 2 extra large pizzas, it's not like he's not going to have hollow cheeks after, right? Like, water retention makes a bit of a difference, but not too much, and I don't think using pharmaceuticals can give you so much water retention that you lose sharp features in your face. One thing that might be quite relevant is the use of HGH. Now, growth hormone has been known in large doses to cause something called acromegaly, which essentially grows your bones, and in particular bones in the face, but it won't be growing bones in like a way that is like masculine dimorphic. Acromegaly is kind of like this bulbous bone growth, where people that have an issue with too much growth hormone kind of gets like this kind of like that, like a kind of like bulbous looking skull shape. And many of the top end bodybuilders will actually use growth hormone to, you know, stimulate muscle growth. So I think that definitely plays part of a reason why at least some of like the professional bodybuilders end up having a face that kind of morphs over time. Like, if you look at a lot of like pro bodybuilders, they often start off with kind of, you know, relatively sharp facial features, and over time their face just kind of morphs. And I think growth hormone might have part of a reason to play. But I think the main reason is simply that a lot of bodybuilders aren't as lean as you think. And I know that may sound kind of strange, because, you know, you see guys that are like very much into bodybuilding and like they have like abs and like they have like veins on their abs, and you think, well, how is this not a lean person? And the problem here is body fat percentage is relative to what your body weight is. For example, if there's a guy that is 250 pounds and 10% body fat, he is carrying 25 pounds of body fat. If you are 150 pounds and 10% body fat, you are carrying 15 pounds of body fat. So that's almost half the body fat that the 250 pounds guy at 10% body fat is carrying. Even though these two people, like assuming everything else is the same, like the same height and all of that, that 150 pound guy is going to have almost half the fat in their face, is going to be significantly leaner in the face, simply because he has almost half the body fat in his face. This is just like A to B logic, right? So fat cells underneath your skin get stretched out like the bigger the muscle is. The more muscle you carry, it kind of gives you the illusion of carrying less body fat in your body, because the surface area of those fat cells are being increased. So even though the total amount of fat doesn't actually go down, it looks like the fat is being decreased because it's being dispersed over a wider area. A lot of, especially enhanced bodybuilders, have so much muscle, have such a wide surface area, that all the fat cells are being stretched out so much around their body. But because the face is basically just bone and there's a little bit of like neck muscle, you kind of can't cheat facial leanness in the way that you can with the rest of your body. So if you're 250 pounds and have 10% body fat, that body fat percentage isn't that accurate, because you're carrying 25 pounds of body fat. You know, let's say 1.5 pounds or 2 pounds of fat is dispersed across your face. That's a lot of fat on your face, whereas the guy that has 15 pounds of fat will have half the total fat in his face and will have sharper, more masculine facial features. And for this reason, I think your facial leanness is a way better barometer for your actual leanness than body fat percentage, because when you get to like guys that carry a lot of muscle, and if you go to the gym for a few years, like, your numbers are going to be a bit more skewed, and you could be at a low body fat percentage, like a relatively lean body fat percentage, have abs, yet your face will still be kind of puffy and bloated and, you know, carrying fat. And at that point, body fat percentage is no longer that great a barometer for your actual leanness. How lean your face is, on the other hand, can't really be cheated. Like, you can't really cheat your way into getting hollow cheeks. I've said before that, you know, you can grow your neck and that will make your face a bit leaner, like your jaw area will be a bit more tighter. But for the most part, you can't really cheat facial leanness, and that's really the best way to tell if someone's actually lean or not. You know that saying that you hear, abs on a skinny guy doesn't count? Well, it's actually the opposite. The lower your body weight is and the skinnier you are, the less muscle you have stretching your fat cells out. So if you have abs as a skinny guy, you truly are lean.
Jordan Barrett is one of the most highest paid male models of all time, but you can just see this guy is so absurdly lean. Like, there's basically no fat on his body at all. It's actually kind of concerning. That guy suffered a lot to get a jawline like that.
There's no illusion going on where fat cells are being stretched across the surface area. And it's very easy to get gassed up when you're like big enough that you can see abs. A lot of people just think, oh, abs, lean. Well, if you're particularly enhanced, you know, you're going to have abs even when you carry an immense amount of body fat. And I want to coin this term called Eddie Hall syndrome. Eddie Hall is like this strongman guy. He was the first man to ever deadlift 500 kilos. You know, a very strong, enhanced lifter, right? And he has visible abs, even though, like, you can just see, like, his face is like huge, right? This is not a lean man. And it's very easy for a lot of guys to get gassed up thinking they're lean and leaner than they really are because they're so big. They have abs and a lean looking body, kind of like from the illusion of fat cells being stretched out.
And when I say a lot of guys get gassed up by abs, I really do mean it. Eddie Hall was talking about doing a bodybuilding show, and he seriously thought he needed to bulk up. He thought he needed to go on a bulk. Which is like the total opposite, right? Like, clearly he needs to lean down. But I'm sure because he looked in the mirror and he sees visible abs, that he just thinks, oh yeah, I'm lean already.
And isn't that kind of weird? Like, a lot of guys that have capped delts and like huge arms and sharp abdominal muscles tend to have kind of chubby looking faces. I'm sorry, but if your face is indistinguishable from a chubby guy or just some guy you'd see at Walmart, you're not that lean. I'm sorry. And to prove the point, if you looked at that last picture that I showed on screen and you didn't think, wait a minute, that's not some guy at Walmart, that's a professional bodybuilder, that proves my point. This is a IFBB pro, a professional bodybuilder, and yeah, you can see like the head just doesn't really resemble the body, right? If you guys want to see a bunch of specific non-algorithm friendly videos about improving your looks, you can subscribe to my Patreon, which is in the link below. Thank you guys for watching, and yeah, I'll see you in the next video. One of the biggest scams in the world is designer fashion. This is something that I think we've kind of seen with our own eyes. We've seen these types of people that spend an exorbitant amount of money on designer clothes, be it a man or woman. More particular for women, but definitely with men, they'll buy like a Gucci shirt, a Rolex, a lot of like fashion accessories to flex. They will convince themselves that, oh, this is going to make me look better. This is such a scam. I believe Bernard Arnault, I think he's like the third richest man at the time of this recording, well over like $100 billion in net worth, and he owns pretty much the majority of luxury brands, luxury fashion brands. This is a very successful scam, you know. The reason why I say designer clothes are a scam is because it's sold with the pretense that wearing these clothes is going to make you this really cool, attractive Chad. And it's the reason why fashion companies will hire models that are Chads, because they want people to associate, oh, wearing this expensive piece of clothing is going to make you like a Chad. You may think that sounds kind of dumb. Like, obviously people know that if you buy a Gucci jacket, that's not going to make you into a Chad with a sharp jawline. Now, you might think that, but that's because it's you. A lot of people just aren't really thinking that way, and the power of propaganda really does work. And, you know, you may think, okay, well, that will never work on me. Like, I'm never going to assume buying some expensive designer clothes is going to make me look better. But a lot of people really do think this. It's very low frequency thinking. But this is like a trap that many people fall into. Just because something is obvious to you doesn't mean it's obvious to other people. You know, what's that saying? Clothes make the man? No, it doesn't. Looking good naked makes you look good in clothes, regardless of what it is. Like, if you have wide shoulders, a small waist, and you're tall, you got long legs, I mean, what clothes don't you look good in? Like, let's be real. If some tall fashion model was wearing a $5 white tee from Walmart, he'd look fantastic. He'd have just as much results on the dating app. He'll have just as much positive results when going on dates. Like, it's not going to matter. And in fact, if someone looks good, like they have like an attractive face, a good looking body, people are going to like associate the clothes they wear to be more expensive than they are, just because of like that halo effect. Whereas like if there's an ugly guy wearing like super expensive clothes, people are gonna, you know, assume this is try hard, or it's gonna be counterfeit goods he's wearing, even if they're real, just because like the halo effect is now in reverse. Think about it. The last time you saw like a woman with like a terrible body, like she had like a giant belly and a small ass, and like she was wearing like Louis Vuitton or something, I guarantee you the thought that came into your mind is that it's probably fake, even though it might have been real. It's just the halo effect worked in reverse. Whereas if she was like a genuinely attractive woman, like a 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10 woman, you'd probably assume it was real, and you'd assume she's like got a rich husband or whatever. But the point being is that the way you look determines how good your clothes look. I'm not devoid of nuance. I know that there's some clothes that are gonna, you know, suit someone better, and like they'll have a better fit and a better silhouette wearing those clothes. Like, I get all that, and there's some quality of fabrics, yada yada, but I don't want you guys to fall into this scam of spending thousands of dollars on expensive clothes thinking that's going to like ascend you. No, it's not. A Chad can wear a $5 shirt from Walmart and he'll look good and have a great dating life. You know, you don't have to do all this, you know? And I want to turn this back to you and ask you this question. If you saw a 9 out of 10 woman in a tight, cheap dress that was like $5 from Temu, but she had like a tiny wasp waist and like wide hips, she had like a beautiful angel skull, the quality of the fabric on her body would not even come into your mind. Like, you would just be so like transfixed by this woman that like it doesn't matter. And this is kind of the point I'm trying to make, is don't like just splurge out on like designer goods. Like, it's just such a waste of time, because this trick doesn't work for you in reverse. You don't see a super attractive woman in a cheap dress and go, forget it, I'm not interested in a tiny wasp waist and bubble butt. I'm not interested. Bullshit. No man has ever said that, ever. The same goes for women looking at men. If Chad, or the woman that she has a specific preference for, is wearing like a cheap tee, like, it doesn't fucking matter. So don't like squander your money on just nonsense. Don't donate money to Bernard Arnault to get another yacht. Like, this is ridiculous. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Riz doesn't matter. Now, I know that is heretical to pickup artists and guys that speak about how you have to have game to pick up women and so on and so forth, but this is something I really believe. Game, Riz, whatever you want to call it, it doesn't matter. Now, there is this like hyperfixation a lot of men have, where they really second guess every single thing they say to a girl, every pause, like the amount of eye contact, the amount of mental gymnastics guys do thinking about how to talk to women is just unbelievable. And it's really unnecessary. There are countless examples of guys that are just fumbling around, not doing anything, and girls are following them around and secretly filming them and simping over them. Like this guy at this airport, just doing airport stuff, and this girl is freaking out about him. This guy doesn't have any pickup lines. This guy isn't doing game or Riz. He is just some attractive guy, and girls are coming to him. I know some people can dismiss this as one example, but I want you to theorize this in your own life. If you have a girl that is your dream girl, like she's a 9 or 10 out of 10, whatever you fancy, whatever you like in a woman, let's say that woman approaches you in person or in a DM, and all she says is, "Hi." Are you going to be upset that this person doesn't have game or they're not putting much effort into their DM? No, you're going to be like, "Oh, hey, what's up, babe? Hey, how you doing?" Like, you're not going to be put off by this girl just saying hi. She's not being funny. She's not displaying confidence. She's not doing anything. And you will respond positively to her. Why? Because you are physically attracted to her. Right? Like, how is this any different from women? They're just humans like us. And yet, for some reason, men think that women don't act like humans.
It's kind of disappointing, isn't it? To realize that actually women, they just don't care how you look. Not really. Not the good ones. Especially, particularly, the good ones.
Yeah, they do. If you're a guy and you're good looking, you can say pretty much anything you want to a girl within a reason, and she is going to respond positively to you if she's attracted to you. Like, it's really not that complicated. This is Occam's razor. Whatever is the most simple explanation for something, that is probably true. If you are sending DMs to girls and they're ignoring it or they don't seem that interested in you, the most simple explanation is that they're not attracted to you. Alright, so I want to stop this video right here. This guy is asking for why he isn't getting matches on Tinder. He thinks he is average looking. He rates himself a 5 out of 10, which is not what I think most women would say. But he thinks the limiting factor here is his about me, his bio. Like, dude, that's not... Nobody reads that. He thinks, maybe I need to virtue signal some more. Yeah, maybe that will work. Maybe that will get women dating me. You know, if you're going to get no dates, at least keep your pride. Don't do this weird clown performance shit. Sorry, but that is the truth. And if a girl is being very sociable, affable, agreeable, and wanting to make life easy for you and meeting her, it's not because you said something exceptionally funny or you displayed some amazing wit in like a DM. No, she responds that way because she is attracted to you. The same way you would respond positively to an attractive woman approaching you. She doesn't have to say anything super wacky for you to be interested. Like, you know, I know this seems kind of obvious to some people, but it really isn't for a lot of people. There's so many men that just like go into so much unnecessary analysis of how to talk to women that they forget that women are just people. And I know that sounds like something a SJW would say, but they are just people like us. They respond positively or negatively to people based on their attraction to them. Like, it really isn't that complicated. I think a lot of men would do better if they spend less time worrying about game or Riz and more time worrying about improving their looks. Because that's the thing that's actually going to make whatever game or Riz actually work. Imagine if someone was trying to meet you to give you $1 million. Would you care at all if they were saying one-word answers in DMs or that they weren't funny? No, you're going to go out of your way to meet this person as soon as possible. Like, you're not gonna care. Like, it doesn't matter because you want what they have. And that is how it goes with looks. If someone is attracted to you physically, they want what you have. Speaking of looking better, why do some men look so much better in their 30s? I made a video about it on screen here. Why does it seem like some people peak in high school and college and then seem to fall off the face of the earth after college? And this applies for both men and women, where it seems like people grow wrinkles and get a beer belly overnight. So what exactly is happening? Is it simply just aging, or is there more to it? One big factor is body fat. A lot of people seem to gain weight dramatically after their college days. And believe me, there is nothing in biology that says this has to be the case. It's not like there's a law in thermodynamics which says any organism above 25 years of age has to gain fat. Like, that's not a thing. But I think it is circumstantially true for most normies that after college, they just balloon up in weight. And a big reason why this is the case is because they're only circumstantially lean. When I say circumstantially, I mean people typically only have an active lifestyle in their youth. I noticed this in my home country of UK when I would go to like the basketball court, and there's also like a few football nets. I would say 90% of people that go there are like high school students, and occasionally there'll be like an adult, but the adult will pretty much only be there for like their young child playing football or whatever. People legitimately just give up being active when they become adults. The only reason why people were lean to begin with was because it was kind of the path of least resistance in high school and college. You know, when you're at school, you're kind of thrusted into being physically active and doing sports, and also you can look around your peers and see that like the most attractive and popular kids are also doing sports, so you think, okay, well, I want to climb the social hierarchy, so I'll do that too. That's what most normies do. And after they leave that environment, it's no longer a factor. Again, the locus of control is outside. It's not them internally rationalizing that being physically active and being lean is a good idea. They're just being a product of their circumstances. And the funny thing is, if you're not neurotypical, you'll probably fare a lot better after college because you have more of an internal dialogue where you can talk yourself into going on a calorie deficit, being physically active, and getting to a lean body fat percentage. Normies simply don't have this internal dialogue. And as a weird guy, and you're probably a weird guy if you're watching this video, this is your superpower. You have more of an internal dialogue than normies. So you can be lean after college. You can have, abs and stuff after you leave college and you go into your 30s. Like, you can do it. Whereas most normies, it's just not even part of the equation. Another factor for why a lot of people fall off after college is simply that they have this erroneous belief that isn't very well articulated, but they seem to think that looks don't matter as soon as you leave college. Like, people are only shallow for a time period of their life, and that's it. Like, they have no preference for looks after that. You know, people are aware that, I want to be attractive to the opposite gender when they're in high school and college. This is kind of like at the forefront of their mind a lot of the time. And yet, for some reason, they think this changes as they grow older. Like, no, that's not how it goes. A Victoria's Secret model is going to look attractive whether you're 20 or 60. Like, it doesn't change. People don't really mature to be less shallow as they age. They stay shallow for the rest of their life, pretty much. And in general, people really underestimate the halo effect to looking physically attractive. The better looking you are, the better you're treated by society. You're more likely to make more money as you can negotiate a better pay rise and so on. Even down to really weird and bizarre stats, like people that are physically unattractive spend twice as long in prison compared to attractive inmates, which is insane. Like, I mean, judges are supposed to be like these objective arbiters of the law, and they can't help but be influenced by pretty privilege. Normies really underestimate in general the power of looks. You know, the high school dynamics that we grow up in, where the pretty girls are the popular girls and the popular boys are like the jocks with abs and stuff, that dynamic doesn't go away as we age. If you look good in high school or college, you're gonna have an easier time, and if you look good in your adulthood post-college, you're also going to have an easier time. Another big phenomenon why people fall off after college is they get into a relationship and they have the very flawed idea that after getting in a relationship, I don't have to worry about looks ever again. It's a very selfish mindset, I think, where people just give up trying to please their partner after they've locked them down. It's like treating your relationship like a captive audience. It's like, well, I've got a girlfriend or wife now, like I can just grow a beer belly and just be gross. And vice versa with women. You know, a lot of them let themselves go after getting in a relationship with a guy. Now, I don't want to sound too much like some hippie liberal YouTuber, but this lacks empathy. Like, it genuinely does lack empathy. Surely you want the person you love to be physically aroused and enjoy you, right? Like, don't you want to please them in that way? And, you know, I'm not some relationship guru or expert, but I'm pretty damn sure treating your partner like a captive audience is not a good idea. Considering that divorce rates in the West is almost 50%. I know there's some dispute over that stat, but it's a lot. It's too much, right? Like, the divorce rate in the West is just too much. I can't help but think maybe that's part of the reason why. Like, people have like such a disdain for looking attractive after they lock down their relationship. I think people kind of get bitter by that. Like, imagine if you get a girlfriend, you marry her, and as soon as like you put a ring on her finger, she just starts gaining like 2 pounds every week. You know, at some point you're just thinking, what the hell? Like, so you don't care if I'm attracted to your body anymore? This isn't a woman is bad thing. Like, men do this absolutely all the time. And the thing is, normies aren't thinking about any of this. They're just going along with the flow. And that's kind of the problem, right? Like, if you are only lean and look good because you're in that life circumstance, as soon as you don't have that pressure anymore making you that way, you're just going to fall to pieces. And unfortunately, a lot of people, they really desire being told what to do. They can't really come up with doing something on their own. If you ever hear like an adult complain about gaining weight or saying they wish you had your kind of body, you know, you can always put it back to them and say, okay, well, why don't you go on a calorie deficit? Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? They'll have like this whole laundry list of excuses. Oh, I can't be bothered hearing it. Oh, I've got kids, I've got work, I'm stressed, blah, blah, blah. Like, they don't have an internal locus of control. They're subject to their environment. Most people are like this. The people that want to look better after college or high school are kind of the weird ones. It's very unusual because there's not really any like peers telling you to do that. You know, you're left to your own devices and you kind of have to have this thought on your own. You have to have the internal dialogue to want to look attractive as you age and you get out of college. And a lot of people simply don't have this internal dialogue. They just look across their peers and see everyone else getting out of shape and haggard looking, and they think, okay, well, fine, I can do it too. That's about it. Like, there's really not too much thought put into this by most people. It's just looking across the aisle, seeing what people do, and copying that. If you're a weird guy and you have a lot of shower thoughts and you're always weighing things up in your mind, that may be a bit of a struggle when you're in high school and college, because those types of people are often, you know, punished in that environment. After you leave that environment, you actually have kind of a superpower. You'll be the guy in your 30s with abs, and other people your age are just gonna turn into schlubs. If you enjoyed this video, chances are you'll also enjoy the video on screen here. This is Aesthetics Waiting, signing out. Have you ever wondered how women would treat you differently if you looked better or worse? I have actually improved my looks quite a lot. I've been through a looks maxing journey myself, and as you can see, I'm not exactly like a Chad, but I have definitely improved my looks. I've added a few points to the way I look. And comparing what life is like when you are like chubby, you have like a neck beard, really is quite huge. And I want to go over just how life changed and how women have treated me differently depending on how I've looked. Now, you can believe me or not believe me, and I think that's fair, right? Like, I'm just one guy. All I can say is what I've seen with my own eyes. I can say that women have really changed how they treated me after I've improved my looks. So to go back in the mists of time, I used to be a beast. Like, I used to be like a fat guy, neck beard, didn't groom myself at all. I was just basically a nerd, just working on my job and, you know, playing video games and so on. As you can see, just didn't really put much attention into how I looked at all. And during this period of time, I want to say I had quite a lot of money. I was making quite a lot of money in this period of my life. So you know how you hear people in like the red pill say, oh, it's just about money. You just need money and status, bro. I had money. I was making a lot of money in this time. But I look like this, which is, you know, a problem. Now, dating when I was basically a neckbeard, it was kind of like I had to really work hard to get a girl to date me. As in, like, I would have to really try to, like, convince her and make things as appealing as possible. And if you've ever tried to feed a squirrel out of your hand, you know, it's so painful to get that squirrel to come to you. It's so scared, it's so like terrified of you. The squirrel is so high strung and like anxious and not wanting to come near you. And that's kind of how life is like dating when you're ugly. And even if you do like quote unquote get lucky, right? It's not as like intense a lust as you would really want. You know how like guys talk about how you need to improve your game and like you're flirting and riz, you know what I mean? It's like you're trying to like talk someone into doing something they don't really want to do, which is not a position you really want to be in, but that's kind of what it was like. During this period of my life, like the amount of dates I would go on would be a lot less, and the enthusiasm of women dating me would also be a lot less. But there's another thing that was going on, which was when I was like talking to women during this time, I noticed they would be way more like standoffish, way more disagreeable, and just more punchy when they spoke to me. And I want to like give you like a really clean and cut example of this. You know, I was talking to some girl on Facebook and like I was explaining my job. I've got like a financial related job and I'm explaining what I do, how I do it, and so on. And I remember she said something like, "Oh, you don't know what you're talking about." Like, just for no reason, just like being rude to me, right? I think like a year and a half later, after I've improved my looks and I've changed my profile picture, she actually DM'd me again and apologized for being rude to me. Now, keep in mind, in this period of time, I haven't interacted with her since this point. She just came back to me after I improved my looks to apologize for being rude to me for no reason. Now, the only thing that changed was my looks. Like, it's just ridiculous. I can't imagine being like that to someone. If there was like some guy that was like, I don't know, like a deep sea engineer, and he was explaining, you know, how his job works and what he does, I can't fathom me saying, "You don't know what you're talking about," when I know nothing about that job. It's just such a, it's so unnecessarily disagreeable. It's just ridiculous. But like, this is what she was like to me. And I think the main reason for that was simply that I was just an unattractive looking guy, because, you know, she changed her tune completely when I improved my looks. And I can see why people will get bitter at this, because it's so shallow. But like, this is how it is in reality. I feel like you as a guy, if you're unattractive, they're looking for like an excuse to like dislike you. That's messed up. Like, I wish that wasn't the case, but like, I'm just saying what I see with my own eyes. It's kind of hard to deny this is what happened in this circumstance. Like, looks doesn't just determine if someone just wants to sleep with you, it also determines how nice they are to you, which is really messed up, but like, that's just the reality. And if you're predisposed to disliking the concept of lookism or the importance of looks, you're gonna just dismiss me as some kind of liar, or, you know, you'll move the goalpost and say, "Oh, that's just one example, you need more examples." It's like, whatever, I'm not playing that game. People can either believe me or not. Another thing with improving looks is I noticed that the rules change the better looking you are. So obviously, like, my matches on dating apps went up several times. That's kind of a given, right? You expect that. But I noticed girls would start to like change their rules for me. Like, there'll be like a girl with like a bio that says, "I'm not here for fun or games," or "If you want a ONS, swipe left," like, you know, that kind of qualifier in their bio. They would like have that, but like, I can very easily tell they were gearing up to, you know, want to snuggle with me. Like, they were making it very easy for me to like pursue that and want to go through with that. So I noticed some girls would like break rules that they state publicly behind closed doors with me after I looked better. Does that make sense? So a lot of girls that have like this image of being chaste on like the public surface aren't really like that if they find someone that is attractive enough for them. And I know for some people that may be kind of obvious, but for a lot of people this might not be obvious. Many people break their own rules for dating when it comes to someone that they actually find attractive. Girls would sometimes, like very rarely, like I'm not saying this happens often at all, very rarely would they like approach me first in the street. Like, they would strike up a conversation with me first, you know, might make eye contact and smile at me, you know, choosing signals, right? Yeah, that's like something new. Like, I never experienced that before I started the Looks magazine. Another thing, I've started to encounter, and this is like really recent, mind you, this is like in the last 4 months, where I noticed there's some like women that are like 30 or something, but they would constantly try to like buy me gifts and, you know, here's a box of chocolates, here's a like, they'll like buy me stuff. And like, I've only encountered that in like the last 4 months. Yeah, this is something like brand new to me. I've encountered this type of woman twice, where they'll like offer to like give you stuff. So like actual like what we would call, if a man did it, simp behavior. I'm not saying I'm a Chad, so I can imagine all of these behaviors would like just exponentially increase if you were better looking than me, right? But like the main benefit here, I think, is simply having options. When you're unattractive as a guy, you kind of have to take what you can get, and you have to work hard to get anything. So when you're like better looking, you can actually have a bit of choice. Like, you don't have to settle with a girl that's rude to you, or, you know, has some problems or whatever. Like, you can actually be a bit more picky. And, you know, this is a really good position if you're trying to build a family, and like you're trying to find like a wife, right? Like, you want to pick a girl that's like good looking, around your looks level, and is actually going to be a good person, like a good quality person you can trust. And this is why it's so hard for me to believe when people say, oh, it doesn't matter how you look as a guy, or it matters very little. Because I've seen such a drastic change in like the quality of my life when it comes to interacting with women, that my lived experience like directly just contradicts what they say. If you're like someone that has looked the same your entire life, it might be kind of hard for you to like empathize with that, because, you know, you haven't seen how things change as you go up or down the ratings and looks, right? Like, if you look at people you went to school with and look at them now, they pretty much look the exact same. Like, they got the same vibe. The fat guy's still fat, the skinny guy's still skinny. And it kind of annoys me that I started like looks maxing like late in life. Like, I wish I knew all this shit now. If you guys want to see bonus videos and support the channel, you can go join my Patreon, which I linked down below. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. This is Aesthetics Waiting signing out.